Hello and welcome to another of my videos featuring things I do with the Go Press. So in a couple of videos back I was foiling with embossing folders and created some lovely pieces of foiling, and I thought I'd do a follow-up to look at how I go about turning something that I've done like that into cards. So we foiled this. In fact, it started off, there we are, that's the piece that I foiled in the video, and then I've used a nesting die set with a decorative edge and I've cut a piece out of that. Okay, so that'll be that. I'm going to make now European sizes. This is an A5 size card. US size is approximately half US letter. It's my card size. There's my card blank. I've got a nice teal mat there. On top of that there's going to be some white card, and I was going to just do this card with a white background, and then I looked and I thought it's too much white. So that will go kind of like that. Actually, it's not stuck down because I wanted to show you making the card. And then I've got some pretty pattern paper that looks nice with both the foil and the teal, and that will go on top. This isn't sitting particularly still to show you where we're going. There we are. Move that over just a bit. Anyway, when we stick it down, it will all sit straight. Okay, so it will be something like that. And then the other piece I did had this smaller pattern on. This is another one of my experiments when I was making the video. So I've actually cut two strips from what was a piece the same size as this. So I've cut two 4cm strips from that. Kind of find a place that they overlap without looking too obvious, and join them together. And that's going to be a strip down the card, and I'm going to cut it off later so that it matches exactly the length of my pattern paper. Okay, and then you're going, oh, but everyone will see the join. Yeah, well, yeah, no, they won't. Okay, so I'll have that, and I'll have this bit, and then I've got my pretty frame, and I've cut the same size sort of decorative oval that this would sit on as a mat, but then I've used another die, and actually a die from a different set, that just cuts that centerpiece out, because I wanted some plain white behind the teal just to really set that off, but I didn't want to hide too much of this by going down to the next size in that particular set. So that will kind of go like that as an aperture, and that's going to sit kind of there. Okay, so oops, building this upside down here, so yeah, let's build it so you can see it. So there we are. So that will go kind of there, and this bit, when it's all stuck together, will go kind of there. And then where this join is, there will be some flowers and some leaves. So there we go, that will go there. That piece will kind of go there. And then I've got some flowers that aren't stuck together yet. They keep falling apart. But yeah, there will be flowers. So nobody's ever going to see the join. And I've got a bit of foiling that wasn't quite as good as the rest there. So there's going to be a nice big butterfly. So you make the best of what you get with foiling, is my philosophy. Do what you can with what you get. So that's, oh, and there's more flowers. There's more flowers to come. So there's some more flowers. So it's not going to be a lonely flower. Okay, there'll be some more. So absolutely no sign of the join in the card. Okay, and then down the bottom here there's going to be a sentiment. I'm going to foil that in a moment. And I thought up here I'd also do some foiling to tie in this background paper with the foil. So I've got this dear little hot foil stamp, and I got this from Craft Stash. It's one of their own brand ones, and it just gives you a row of dots and diamonds down there. That will work quite well, but I'm not going to do it straight away onto here. I'm going to do a test first so that I know how many shims I need and if I'm going to have any problems. And I realise not everybody's got something like that, but that's where you put some pearls or some Nouveau drops, any kind of small embellishments, a little cluster of butterflies, just to balance the card. So, but that's what I'm going to do. So let's get started. So first thing I want to do, I think, turn the GoPress on because it's turned itself off while I've been getting myself ready. And then I've got a little offcut of my background card there, and I'm going to do some testing. If you watched that previous video, I had some various offcuts of foil. It's long enough for that. So you can tell with something like this, you really don't need much foil. And to make sure things end up straight and where I want them, I like to tape them down. Okay, so, but this is just a test, so I'm not going to take too much time getting it straight, but I am going to tape it down. So, tape over the end of the hot foil stamp and over the end of the foil. I'm not sure it's going to hold. Yeah, that'll be fine. Okay. It only really needs to hold it in place while I put it on the GoPress. Okay. So that's warming up. I'm going to put that onto the GoPress and find some shims. Oh, it's up to temperature. I have a packet of shims. I keep them in various shapes, sizes, materials. Now, the Craft Stash hot foil stamps are not particularly thick. So I'm going to go with 3 shims and see what happens. I put those on, close the lid, and that hot foil stamp is not very big, but it hasn't just gone on there, so I shall give that a moment. So I'm going to foil that, and then the sentiment I'm going to use is this one. In fact, I could, while I'm just letting that warm up, I could tape that down on my card. Now, is this piece of foil big enough? Here's the question. No. Okay, so let's cut another piece of foil. This is one of the new Spellbinders hot foil stamps that they've brought out for their Glimmer hot foil system. It's the Becca Feekin Everyday Sentiment set. There's 5 sentiments in the set. Beautiful, scrolly sentiments. And they all come with a die to cut round them. And I'm very lucky. I'm in the UK. These haven't been released here yet. I suspect they'll be launched at the weekend. There's a Spellbinders launch, Glimmer launch show on Hochanda. But I was lucky enough to win a set. I'm commenting on a video of a company in the United States who had them early. There we are. I just need to grab some tape. me go and roll that through the die cutting machine. Okay, so back from the die cutting machine. So this was my test to see how this hot foil stamp and this card and this foil work together. I might do this and decide that the colour looks awful. Because I haven't got one of these I've made earlier. This is it. So some of this, whoops, is experimental. That's quite warm. Let's push this out the way. Oh, I can put my sentiment on to warm up now. I'll put that on there. And I think I probably only want possibly only one shim with this, because these, what you find is that when you've got narrow edges on hot foil stamps, the pressure gets more concentrated, and you don't need as many shims. So I'll put one in and hope for the best. That's on plain white card, so if that goes wrong, I've got more plain white card. It's not a problem. Okay, so let's peel this. Oh yeah, I think that'll an accent. So there I can, so that's a scrap of card, but I can just put that on there and go, will that work or not? Does that tie that in? Yeah, I think that does. Okay, right, so now I need to set that up, but on my pattern paper. Now this is a dear little hot foil stamp, and sometimes it bends a bit even, so I'm a little bit careful with it. Right, so I want my piece of pattern paper. Now, the important thing here is make sure you don't turn your pattern paper upside down if it's got a particular way it goes. So I was looking at this earlier, and I decided these are floppy flowers, and they don't really point up. Or do they point up properly? No, I think they look more natural that way round. So I need to make sure I put my foiling in this corner. Okay, so I'm going to need a piece of foil. Not sure I've got a piece. Oh yes, I've got a piece there. There we are. Okay, I'm going to cut that piece to length. Take the tape off of here. Now the other thing that can be quite useful when you're doing this is to grab a magnetic sheet if you've got one. Hang on. Okay, so I'm going to put a magnetic sheet under here, and my GoPress and foil is back up to temperature, so I am just going to pop to the die cutting machine and do this sentiment. Hang on again. Okay, so I've got my sentiment off the GoPress, and that's just cooling down before I take tape off. So I need to get a piece of foil for this hot foil stamp. I want it just a little bit longer than the hot foil stamp, but I don't want huge amounts of extra foil. About there, okay. And then I'm going to be using, I've got a crafting ruler. Now if you do a search for acrylic ruler with grid, something like that, or if you've done any patchwork, you might have a small patchworking ruler that's got a grid on it. This one's also got a metal inlaid in the edge, so that you can actually use it with a rotary cutter without damaging it. But I like the grid on it because it means I can line things up and mean that things aren't going off at a slant. So I've got my foil, and actually I'm going to put my foil down, and I'm going to put a bit of tape on my foil before I even start, because if everything keeps moving, if you think you've got things lined up, and then you think, oh no, it's moved. Okay, so just at the edge there, I'm going to put a piece of tape to put my foil down. Okay, so I'm taping my foil to my card. Just some little bits of tape, and I'm using frog tape for delicate surfaces. It's a unprofessional decorator's grade masking tape that's suitable for use on freshly painted surfaces. 3M do an equivalent product. In the UK I know it's available on Amazon, you can buy it on eBay. I buy it in the Range, it's cheaper there, and you can also get it in B&Q. So, decorator's masking tape for delicate surfaces. Okay, so I'm going to lay my hot foil stamp on and decide roughly where I want it. And I want to start with a diamond at the top, so I'm going to put it that way round. Okay, and then I'm going to get my ruler. And the fact I've got the magnetic sheet means that doesn't move too easily. Okay, now I've just moved that over the edge because that will make it easier for me to be able to see the lines. Make sure your ruler's not going to snag on anything. And then I can line the grid lines up with the edge of my piece of pattern paper that I have, or card, that I've cut to size already. Okay, I can just bring it up to the hot foil stamp. Make sure the hot foil stamp is sitting along that. That's the place I want it. Take some tape, hold it down, tape onto the hot foil stamp. No, it's on the ruler as well, and that's no good. Right, okay, make sure everything's straight again. I'm going to move the ruler out of the way this time and just tape onto there, and then at the other end tape it. It's onto the foil and a little bit onto the cardstock. Okay, now I like this tape because when it gets hot it doesn't react with the glue. The glue doesn't react to the heat very much, and it doesn't sort of leave stains on your cardstock on anything. You just let it cool down for a minute or two and it peels straight off. So that's that. So that then needs to go onto the Go Press. But I don't want anything to contaminate anything on this if I've got anything that might have transferred. So I'm going to actually cover this area with some copy paper. So in my collection of shims I've also got some pieces of copy paper. So here. Why do I have so many shims? Well, I don't need so many shims, but when I do some foiling and it goes wrong, I quite often just keep the piece of card so I can use it as a shim. And then I don't need to use fresh pieces. I keep them all in this packet so that whenever I'm doing foiling, I've got what I need. And I'm looking for another piece of copy paper. Now I'll make do with what I've got. So I needed 3 shims for what I'm doing. 1, 2, 3, and some copy paper. Now I'm using an A4 die cutting machine, so that means I can leave my card or paper sticking out the edge if I want to. So I can decide where I want it on my Go Press. And as I say, I can leave it sticking out the middle. I think I'm going to do it that way round. Okay, so I'm going to put that just pretty much over there. That will cover it. Okay, just to make sure I don't pick up anything. I'm just going to tear this in half. There we are, and pop that under that section. And you just need to make sure that you know where your hot foil stamp is, so that you're not interfering with that as well. Okay, 1, 2, 3 shims onto there, and that will need to warm up. Okay, so while I'm waiting for that, let's have a look at this. So it takes a bit of kind of practice and getting used to use your time usefully while things are warming up. But once you get used to what needs doing, you soon get into the habit of cutting the next piece of foil, cutting the next piece of card, going and do some die cutting. Okay, and that's going to be my sentiment. So I can position the die over that and get that ready. Yeah, it'll only fit one way round. There we are. So in the UK, I think these are launching this coming weekend. It's August 2018 on the Herchanda craft shopping channel. If you're in the USA, Scrapbooking Made Simple have them already, and scrapbooking.com I believe also have them. I'm sure other places will have them very soon. Obviously some other places might already have them that I don't know about. But they are Spellbinders Glimmer hot foil plates. And they work perfectly well with the Go Press. Okay, so that's ready to go. That's nearly ready to go. I'll be back from the die cutting machine in a moment. Okay, so back from the die cutting machine. So let's get this out of here. So 1, 2 shims, keep those to use again. That's my pattern paper, that's my copy paper. So keep that to use again. And one of the reasons I do that, one of my videos yesterday was on using embossing folders, and I found that the black printing on the back of one of my embossing folders, when it got hot, transferred onto my Go Press. And I'm not sure that I've managed to get it all off, so the copy paper will just make sure none of that transfers onto anything else I'm foiling. So one piece of tape and another, and I always tend to peel my tape from the hot foil stamp off onto the card. Okay, that's that piece. Let's lift the foil away. And there we are. Okay, so now I've done that, I can sort out my strip to go along here. So I've got my strip and I've joined it together, and I did join it together and find that my one piece was cut slightly wider than the other, so I've lined up one edge and got it all stuck together, and then I have actually used my ruler and my rotary cutter to trim down both pieces along down the other edge. You could do it with your paper trimmer, I'm sure, but be careful, because you don't want to suddenly find one piece of card as twisted. So I'll tape that down. So I'm going to use some double-sided tape to put this onto its mat. And my double-sided tape going to use my wide double-sided tape. And I've still got a piece of masking tape on the back of here, and I'm going to leave it there. You can just bet if I take it off, something will go wrong. Right, so this will go, I only need it that long. Okay, so I'm going to put this on the back of here. Okay. Now, I like to cut my tape, and I actually find it peels more easily if I've got a clean cut edge. If I tear it and it's a soft edge, I don't find it as easy to peel it. Okay, so I'm going to peel that corner back, and then I'm going to line this up from the other end that isn't sticky. Okay. So about you, I hate having to stick things with people watching me. Just don't watch for a minute. Right, so, no, I don't mean it. So, that is straight there. So, I'm coming along, and that looks straight all the way along there. So, I think that's got a bit skew width at the end. So, make sure it's equal all the way along. I'm going to go with that. So I've pushed that end down, that's the sticky end. So that, now I'm committed. Okay, so I'm going to just steadily pull out my double-sided tape. Let it come along a bit further. Just make sure it's staying straight. Yeah, and you can hold your card down and pull your tape out, and there away. And that's how you end up with it stuck down straight, rather than it grabbing and when you're in the wrong place and you're going, ugh. Right, because we only have one piece of this card. Okay, so I'm not worried about that sticking out off the end. So this now needs to be stuck onto here and then trimmed with scissors. Okay, so I want it that ends. I'm going to leave it just overhanging that end slightly, and I'm going to use my narrow tape, but only because I want a piece either side. So I'm going to come down one edge, nearly at the edge, probably about a millimetre away from the edge. And if you're thinking, I know how to stick things down, you don't need to be telling us all that. Well, feel free to fast forward if you're a confident crafter and you're quite happy with what you're doing, putting bits and pieces together. But I know there are a lot of people who aren't so experienced out there who really like to be shown every step. Particularly things like how to get things straight. Okay, that's on there. Now, I haven't been to classes or anything for this. I have learnt everything I know pretty much from watching craft channels on the television. So Craft and Hachanda and some videos on YouTube. And then just experimenting and trying things out. So that will go there. So again, I'm going to peel the pieces, a couple of pieces of tape. Peel that one and the other piece at the same end. That's it. Okay. And then I want to line this up in front of me and decide how far from the edge I want it. At this point you might need to bring in some other bits and pieces and just have a look. Is that about the right? I think that'll work. Maybe a little little bit further this way. That's it. Okay, and then I just want to make sure that is straight. Okay, if you've got a grid on your glass cutting mat, that really helps with this kind of thing. I'm going to go with that. Committed now. So this end is held down. I'm going to pull that out. Just let that flop back into place. There we are. Stick that one down. Take that one out. Okay, and then put that out the way. Turn it over on the back and use some large scissors and just cut straight across. Okay, I'm going to cut straight across there, but I'm going to tip it towards me now so that I can see what I'm doing. There we are, and that's quite a lot to cut through. And then the other end, do the same. There we are. Try not to do what I just did, which was catch the edge of the card. I'm just going to line that up. There we are. Make the edge of my card straight again. Okay, so I've got that bit. Okay, we're done that far. Okay, so this now will need to go onto the base, and this will need to be put together. So I'm going to be gluing my die cut onto the white backing, and then I'm going to mount it on there with some foam. So I'm going to pause the video while I do that sticking, because you really don't want to be watching me stick things with glue, and then I'll come back and do the final assembly. Okay, so I've put that piece together. So stuck my frame to my white backing and then used some foam to raise that up off of my background. So I've got that ready. So really now I need to stick the layers of the card together and then embellish it. So I've got my card here. Well, I haven't stuck my flowers together yet, so I need to do that in a moment. Okay, so I've already put the tape on these bits, so let me make some space so the camera's got a clear view. Okay, so I stick my tape so that each piece just goes up to it, and leave it's okay to leave a gap. If it comes close, that's fine. You don't want it overlapping, okay? You don't want your tape overlapping. And then I choose two corners, and I usually take, as it's facing me, the top left, then turn it around and do the top left again. So what I end up is the top left and the bottom. Well, yeah, it all reverses when you turn it around. It doesn't matter which two, but I do two diagonal corners, which means I've lifted the end. It's easier to do this if it's flat. So if you have trouble with your tape, put your card flat on the table so you won't bend your card. And then you peel your tape and just crease it. And then there, I've got fingernails, if not, use a pokey tool. Some people use a scalpel. No, that seems a bit dangerous to me. Okay, so you just bend those back, fold those back, so I've got two opposite corners with the tape off. And then make sure you've got your card base the right way around. I'm going to do this facing me. Okay, and then you can put this on, actually. For the bottom layer, at least, I like to open it out so it sits flat. Okay, so I've got my card base, and I cut my mats and layers to size earlier, so I know everything is the right size and fit. So I've already dry fitted it and had a look several times. I always like to put my cards together without any glue to start with. Have a look, and then you can decide if things look right. Okay, so that looks like, so again I can touch these two corners because I haven't taken the backing off the tape in this corner or that corner. Okay, so when I'm ready, and I can hold it by those and adjust it, and when I'm happy that I'm lined up correctly, I can then push the corners that have got tape. Okay, my card then sits still. I just peel my backing away, and the weight of the card just takes that down, and that sticks. Okay, and then I'm going to do exactly the same with my white piece of card. Okay, so again, opposite corners, and as I look at it, I usually do that one and that one, but it doesn't matter which two as long as they're diagonally opposite. Because if I do them the same side, then I don't actually get this piece of tape with a corner lifted, and then once I've stuck it down, it's really difficult to get the backing off. So opposite corners. And the lady I first saw use a technique like this, I think her name's Pauline, and she demonstrates for Hunky Dory Crafts on Crankcraft. So thank you very much for showing me how to get things stuck down straight. Yeah, so that's that. So then the white layer can go down. Now you'll see I've gutted this piece of card, and that got used to make my frame. Yeah, so that was taken out the middle of there. And by the time I've got the next layers on, you'll never know that that bit is missing. If I'm using thinner paper, sometimes I'll put some other scrap card in the middle just to build up the centre, so I don't end up with a saggy bit. Right, so line that up. Make sure I'm happy that I've got the same amount of the nice dark teal showing. And I don't think that's quite straight. Sometimes it's best to stand up and do this so you can look over. And I always allow a 2mm gap, so each layer I cut 4mm smaller in each direction than the one before. And that way I end up with a 2mm gap all the way around. I find if I try and do anything less than that, that gets very tricky when I'm sticking down to actually make sure it looks right. Okay, if you really struggle, maybe leave a slightly bigger border, and that's actually, there we are. Okay, so that's that one. So now I need to put tape on the back of that one. Tape sticking everywhere. Let me pause while I do this. Okay, so stuck the pattern paper with its panel down. Okay, and then I need this, and I need to make sure I get it the right way up. Now, the other thing with my ruler, whatever I've done with my ruler, here it is. Quite often these have a centre line marked, so you can actually lay it on your card, and the measurements count out from the middle, so you can actually make sure that you've got the centre of your card and actually centre your topper, and then you don't get people going, is that over to one side? Or you don't look at it afterwards and go, ooh, it's not in the middle. Okay, so that will go there, and my sentiment will go down the bottom there. Just make sure that's going to fit. Yeah, I don't mind if it overlaps there a bit. Yeah, that'll be fine. So I'm going to leave my ruler there because then it shows me how far up to put this. I've already put some tape on the back. I thought about putting this up on foam pads as well, but I think that was just going to be a bit too much dimension for this card. Okay, especially as I want the flowers to overlap the edge. Okay, so I'm lining this up so I can see where the centre is. I can see that I'm straight. I can gently put it down. And when I'm sure that I'm happy, in fact, this is quite grabby tape, so I'm a bit nervous. Okay, so I want that there. I'm just going to move my ruler quickly up to the top and just check that I'm still in the middle at the top. I think my top just wants to go over a little tiny bit to there. Okay, I'm going to go with that and press it down. Because whoever receives this card is not going to get a ruler out and check that it's in the middle. Okay, so I've got that. So this is where we are so far. Okay, oops. I'll have to put the camera right in a minute and show you. Let's do that. There we are. Okay. So now all I need to do is arrange my flowers to hide my seam. Stick down my butterfly. Put my sentiment on some foam. So flowers I have just cut from some white card. So let me move this out of the way. I don't want to get it messy. There we are. So I use a piece of it's thick but stiff foam, and I cut my flowers out earlier, and I used my shaping tool, my tonic ball shaping tool. And basically I just turn them over on this foam and I shape them. Sometimes with a big bit, sometimes with a little bit. Then I turn them over and I've got a piece of squishier foam that I'll just use in the middle to push them to the centre in. Okay, so I do that and I layer them up, and that will be my flowers. I've got one there, and actually I find this easy if I do it on there, they sit still. So I want to offset the petals on this one, or maybe to there, and each one, oops, yeah, if you're not careful they try and straighten out. So let's do that, and I'm just going to use the end of a paintbrush just to push that down. I just want something a bit smaller than my ball tool. Push that in the middle. I need to find the rest of my flowers, because I should have 3 flowers all together, and they've all got a bit spread out and muddled. So I've got my big one there, and that needs one of those layers, and then a centre. I've buried some flowers on my desk. Oh, there we are. Okay. So each layer you just put a spot of glue and press down in the middle. So let me just finish putting the flowers together, and then I'll be back. Okay, so getting there. So now I just need to put some glue on the back of my flourishes. And I just put spots in odd places. And then kind of blot it off. I've got a piece of kind of scrap acetate that I use when I'm gluing. Which means I can easily move it out of the way when I want to know I've got a clean surface. So that one's going to go there. That's it. The glue's gone grabby, so that's fine. The other one. Let's go drape itself over the edge of there. Sorry, we're on a bus route. So that's my foliage. And then I've got my flowers that I've now put together. So I'm going to put a big one there. And actually when I'm doing 3D things like this, my preferred glue is in fact a product called Super Thick Slap It On, that's designed for people who do things like mixed media canvases. And it's one of those, it's an acrylic kind of gel medium, and you can mix it up with glitter, all sorts of stuff to add texture and colour, and stencil with it, that kind of thing. But when it comes to actually sticking down things that are uneven and perhaps going onto foil, I find it sticks really well. There we are, so that can go there. And then I've got another flower to go next to it. I've even stuck ribbon with it because it doesn't soak into the fibres. Now that go there. This one can go up there. I'm just going to kind of tuck it under the edge there. And then I've got a butterfly, and this is going to be sticking onto an area that's got foil on it, so again it can be tricky. It does come in a big pot, this. I just decant it into a small one so I don't have to keep opening my big pot. And if it gets contaminated, I've obviously not contaminated lots of it. There we are, that can go there. Big butterfly. And then I need my sentiment, which was here a second ago. I was putting foam on the back of it. Oh no, it is buried on the desk. There we are, hiding in plain sight. So I put foam pads on the back of there. So let me just put this away. This is an acrylic though, so anything you're using to apply it to or need to wipe it off, do it before it dries. You could have put the sentiment up there, but I'm going to put it down there, and I'm going to let the edge of my flower just come over the top of it. So I'm sure this video has gone on far longer than I really intended, but hopefully you found it useful. Figure out, okay, so you've got a piece of card that you've got some foiling on, what do you do with it? I know I've been there, how can I use it? It's lovely. What do I do with it? And sometimes I don't put foam pads on all these little bits. I'll do an extra layer instead. I'm going to move that out of the way because it's nappy. And lay this flat. Yeah, rather than watch me, let me pause. Got the foam pads off, so now I just need to stick this down. So I'm just going to tuck it, I think, part of it under the edge of the petals of the flower, maybe. That's it, just about there. Covering up much of that bottom flourish, unfortunately, but all the bits going up the top. Sometimes that happens. Just a little bit lower, maybe. Let me try and leave that leaf sticking up. There we go. That'll do. There. There we are. Try to tilt the camera up a little bit further. So there we are, one finished card. So the fold of an embossing folder, this bit and this bit, full stamp on this bit and this bit, white card, teal card, some pattern paper, and there it is. Okay, so it's been quite long, and I'm sure lots of you think, well, we know to stick things down, we know to put a card together. That's fine. You know, it's YouTube, you can fast forward, and that's fine. But for those thinking, oh, how do we get from this lovely piece of foiling to a card? There's one idea for a layout. Feel free to use it as inspiration, copy it, do something close to it, however it helps you. Take the idea and just let it enrich your crafting. Okay, thanks for watching.